Welcome back to the Always Reading Book Club. It is your girl Kiki Reader, and we are starting a new series today. So we are going to start the Pierced series by Sydney Landon, but I'm only going to do the review for the first three books because that's going to be two of the main characters' story. Now, you can go and read the other ones. I will. Because these are some interesting stories. So you can do that, but I'm only going to do the first three in this series. So the first book in this series is called Pierced. We meet Lucien, and he's having a conversation with one of his best friends since he was like a kid. His name's Aiden. And he's talking about how basically he has this woman named Monique who was still after him, but he does not want her. He has another woman that he was kind of dating. Her name was Lori, and they broke up because she had given him like some ultimatum, and he just doesn't do that. So he has an event to go to. He needs a date, and so he's asking Aiden like if he knows someone who can like do a quick date for him. But then he's kind of worried because he doesn't want to get another woman to get attached. So then Aiden tells him about this escort service called Date Night. And at first, of course, Lucien is like, no, like, I'm not paying for sex. And Aiden's like, no, it's really for like businessmen. Like, sometimes they want to go to an event and have a beautiful woman on their arm. And so this is the type of service you would use. And so at first he was just kind of like, I don't know about that. Like, I don't know. I might have to think about it. But he needs one, so he finally caves in. And it's like, you know what, make the call. So we get a little backdrop. They've been friends since they were kids. And their friendship started because there was like a bully that was messing with Aiden. And Lucien fought the dude, or the little kid. And they've been best friends ever since. There was a third friend named Cassie. Aiden was in love with her. But apparently she was always in love with Lucien. And apparently there was something tragic happened, but we don't know exactly what has happened just yet. So we then meet Leah. And Leah has like a year left of her degree. She's almost done. She goes to St. Clair's University in Asheville, North Carolina, which is a private school, very prestigious. We get a backdrop of her life, and she comes from a pretty rough one. So her mother was really mean to her. She was physically abusive, emotionally, verbal, just any type of abuse, pretty much. She was that to her. And she never knew who her father was. Her mother never told her. And then her mother met this guy named Jim Dawson, married him. He became her stepfather. Nasty little pervert. At first, he just looks at her, and then he starts coming into her room at night, making her take her clothes off so he can jack off to her. Just nasty. He never penetrated her, but still, massive violations that were just disgusting. One day she heard a conversation between her stepfather and her mother where he was telling the mother, like, you're gaining weight. I don't like them big. And so she goes, ding, ding, ding. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to gain weight. So Leah starts eating. She gained like 15 pounds in a month. And it worked. He, of course, hurled tons of insults at her as well as her mother. But she didn't care because as long as she didn't have to endure what he had been doing to her, she would take it. So she got accepted to St. Clair's. And she was in the laundry room ironing, and her mom and the gym guy come down. They're arguing, and she walks off. Well, the gym guy accidentally hit the iron, and he, of course, was like, you did that on purpose. The mom ran away, right? She's useless, horrible human being. She ran off, and because she didn't want to deal with his wrath, she'd rather her child deal with it. Just an awful human. It's not even about being an awful mother. She's an awful human. And so he, of course, took the iron and grabbed her, ripped her shirt, turned her around, and put the damn iron to her back and told her, "You're a fat cow, and this is how you brand a cow." He was like, "This way you know you always belong to me." I was like, jeez. She ran out of there because they had put her out anyway. They had told her she had to get out earlier that day. And she winds up passing out on a bench somewhere. She gets up when she comes to. She goes to the store, got something to take for the pain, and she winds up meeting a woman named Deborah. And it was at a diner. And she begged her for a job, and Deborah helped her. Deborah has a boyfriend named Martin. He runs someplace. I forget what it is. But Deborah winds up, basically was like, she could sell her car that she had that she wasn't using. She sleeps in the car because she doesn't want to stay with Deborah and Martin because she just doesn't trust people at this point. Even though they're being nice to her, I get that. Because if your own mother could treat you the way that she was treated, I totally get the whole trust issue thing. So she would stay in her car as much as she could. And that's how she spent probably like the first year or so living like that. And she saved up all her money. But then when she did get in a place, because she has to get an apartment, it's like an apartment dorm on campus, you still got to pay for that. It's not a part of her tuition. So her tuition is taken care of. She got a full ride. But all the other stuff, the books, housing, she's got to take care of that. And so even though she worked, as hard as she could, the money was like gone after like the first semester that she had saved. So her roommate at the time named Megan tells her about date night, and that it's like a dating service, escort service, and how she's been able to make really good money doing it. And so that's what she's been doing for the past couple years, like 3 years. And of course tonight she has a date with Lucien. She's sick. But she's like, I gotta power through because I need this money. And she's taking some cold medicine, and no, she did not take the day one. Leah gets to the restaurant because she had insisted on bringing her own vehicle. And we also find out she lives with her best friend Rose. So Rose has a boyfriend named Jake, and they've been together for a couple years. Rose would like to work for date night, but she knows that Jake would never be okay with that. And so she kind of lives vicariously through Leah and with her stories. So Leah goes to the door of was it a restaurant? I think it was a restaurant. And a sports Mercedes vehicle pulls up. Out walks this beautiful man. She takes a picture, sends it to Rose. And then when he comes up to her and says, "Miss Adams," she's like, "Yeah, but how do you know my name?" And he says, "I'm your date, Lucien." And she blurts out, "God, you're beautiful." So she, of course, in her head is like, oh my gosh, I never would have. Everything is just coming out that she thinks. So he laughs. They go inside. And Monique is there, and she, of course, tries to be all over him. He's not paying her any attention. And she actually says, Leah does, "Oh my gosh, her tits are fake." So there was an older couple at the table, and she got along really well with them. And she told them about the fact, that she was going to St. Clair's, and she didn't feel like that was something she really needed to hide. And it worked out. They had a great time. So she's getting along with everyone except for good old Monique. Her ass drunk some wine as well. So now she's even doozier. So he's like, I'll take you home. And I have someone deliver your car over to your place. And at first she's like, no. because she starts thinking of like the Lifetime movies, right? But then she's kind of feels like she doesn't have a choice because she's damn near about to pass out. So she lets him take her to her apartment. When they get there, he says, tomorrow you need to quit your job. He's like, you need to call date night and quit. And she says, huh? Like, am I hearing you right? Like, why would I do that? Like, I got expenses I got to pay. I can't just quit my job. And he says, well, you're going to have to quit because I want to fuck you. And I can't fuck you while you're an escort. And he was absolutely serious. She still, of course, is like, whatever. He's just talking. So she goes into her apartment. And the Jake guy, he's like, he's protective of her. And was like, you can't do that. You just met him, and all this type of stuff. He shouldn't be telling you what to do, which he shouldn't, and I agree with that, But I thought it was nice. He was trying to be protective of her because he does know about her past and what happened to her. So he's super protective. And we also know another reason why he is because she was involved with a friend of his named Jackson. And that was the only person she's ever had sex with. They did it one time. And afterwards, when he saw her back, he said how disgusting it was, and he didn't want to talk to her anymore. He was telling other people about it, saying how she was just weird. I mean, just a really mean-spirited person. I was like, he was the fucking disgusting. And so then Jake stopped being cool with him. But of course, she's still thinking about Lucien and him wanting her to quit the job. That's still playing in her mind. So a couple days go by, she's studying, she gets a text message and it says, did you do what I told you? And of course, she's like, who's this? And they were like, oh my gosh, I'm so hurt. You know how quickly you forgot me and you've been on my mind these past couple days. So she says again, like, she's getting pissed off. Like, I don't know who you are. Like, who the hell is this? Then he texts Leah, I'm so disappointed. You forgot me. And that's shocking, being that you said I was a god. And she, of course, texts back, Lucien. And he says, unless you've met another god. And so again, he's like, have you done what I told you? And she's like, I can't do that. And he told her, I'll talk to you soon. And that was the end of the text. So then we find out she has a date with Aiden. So she goes to Valentino's, which is a place, and to go meet Aiden. Of course, who she thinks is Aiden is not. It is Lucien. And she, of course, is like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I'm your date. And he was like, I figured if I did it under my name, you were going to say no. So I did it under someone else's so you would come. So then while they're talking, Aiden, the real Aiden, comes up. And she thinks Aiden is attractive, but he just doesn't hold a candle to Lucien. So then Monique walks up because Monique is Aiden's date. And he actually makes the comment, like one man's burger is another man's steak. And I mean, I guess if you don't care nothing about her on Lucien's part, he doesn't care. Like, he genuinely doesn't. But I just don't understand why you would want to fuck with somebody that fuck with your boy, and every time it seems like she gets around him, she still wants to fuck with your boy. Like, to me, that does not make any fucking sense. Like, to me, that sounds like you got a history of wanting what your boy has. Because, I mean, that just doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm looking at Aiden real sideways. Like, you can't be that fucking thirsty for somebody. I'm sure there's plenty of women that you could have dated who would want to date you that are not actively after your homeboy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just thought that was just really lame on Aiden's part. So when Aiden looks at Leah, he kind of blinks a little bit and he starts asking her a couple questions about herself and things like that. She tells him, she's, going to St. Clair's. He's impressed by that. So Lucien takes Leah. They walk off. His dick's hard. He makes a comment about the fact that he wants to fuck her, but like he can't do it while she's still an escort. And that pissed her off because she was like, I'm not rich. I don't come from money. I have to work so that I can pay for a place to stay, for my books, food, you know, everything. And she's like, I don't do this shit for fun. You know, I didn't just want to become an escort. And so he felt bad and was like, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that was the situation. You know, normally I do my homework. And so then they leave. She goes to her apartment and they wind up having phone sex that night. And it starts off with like text messages and then it evolves into the phone sex. Girl comes super hard. He comes hard. So super crazy. So Aiden texts him afterwards and is like, who's the girl? And Lucien was like, none of your business. And he goes, looks like someone from the grave. And he texts back. He didn't say anything after that. He just stopped texting with him. So we'll see what that's all about later on. But he does say he's going to do a background check on Leah. He now wants to know everything about her. So he books another date through date night. She's grateful because, hell, girl needs the money. She winds up having to borrow a dress from Rose, her roommate, because she only has like 3 dresses. Because normally she doesn't repeat customers. If she does, it's like months down the road. So they don't remember what she wore the last time that she saw them. So she doesn't really want Rose to meet him just yet. She hasn't even told Rose that she's going out with this man again. So she gets dressed and she runs out. Of course, when she gets to him, he's like, I thought I was coming to your door. And she's like, well, no, my roommates are in there, my roommate and her boyfriend's fooling around. You know, we don't need to, see that unless you're into that. So then he says, you don't like to watch? And she's like, well, if you're into it, we can go back because I'm sure they're at the good part by now. And he was like, nah, I'd much rather just taste your pussy. I was like, shit. So he takes her to an Italian spot. It's not far from his one of his apartments. He has a couple. He also has the house in Biltmore, which is the family home. So his parents died in a car accident when he was young, and his Aunt Faye raised him. She still lives at that house, but it's really his. So, of course, he got this inheritance when they died. But where he really made his money is when he started Quinn Software, if I'm not mistaken. And that's what's made him, like, so much freaking money. So, they go to the Italian restaurant. They get to the table. He starts fingering her pussy under the table. And then the waiter comes up with the wine. And he takes the finger after the waiters poured the wine into the glass. He takes his finger and he wipes it around the top of the glass and then he drinks the wine. I'm not gonna lie, that's some freaky shit, but it when I read it, that was fucking hot. Gotta admit it. And she is incredibly turned on by this. So they have a conversation about, what she wants to do after school. She says she wants to get a master's degree because what she really wants to do is be a business analyst. She's really intrigued by the whole idea of it, taking part of business, figuring out what works, all these type of things. So he thinks that's awesome, and he starts kind of talking about with Quinn Software how he was a part of that process in the beginning and he really liked it. It was hard work. It was tiring, but it paid off. Now he pays people to do that. So then he takes her back to her apartment. She's kind of disappointed, but the man told her, he's like, I'm not going to fuck you while you're still working for date night. So then she goes inside. He texts her, don't touch yourself. That's going to be my job. So she texts him back something and he tells her, just for that, I'm going to fuck you real hard the first time. And she's like, damn, how am I not supposed to touch myself after you message me something like that? Like, that is super hot. And so he says, I don't know. He said something else, whatever, and that was the end of that. So the next day, girl gets something from her bank. It's a receipt, and it was like there's been this deposit of like 10 grand. And so she's like, oh, shoot, I need to call my bank because clearly, like, this is a mistake and they need to fix this. So when she gets to her apartment, Rose is like, oh my gosh, why didn't you tell me you even applied for a new job? So they have an answering machine because Rose's parents insist that she has it. And so on there is someone from date night saying, we accept your resignation. We're sorry to see you go. But, super proud of you for getting a position with Quinn Software. But if you ever want to come back, you can. And so that's when it goes ding, ding, ding. She figures it out. This is fucking Lucien. He's deposited this money. And he done quit that job for me. I'm like, damn. But she's pissed off. So she's like, you know what? She Googles Quinn Software, goes there. This girl got on like cut off shorts and a shirt. But she's going to this business because she needs to talk to him. So she's pissed. So she gets there. His driver's name is Sam. And she sees him and like Sam helps her get upstairs. And when she gets up there, she goes off on him. And he was like, I told you I was going to fix it. She was like, so you'll pay me and then fuck me, but you wouldn't fuck me as long as I work for date night, And she's going off. Aiden comes in the office, as well as I think it's either receptionist or his what is it called? His assistant, Cindy. And he's like, Lucien, what the fuck's going on? And Aiden's like, Cindy came and got me because she was worried because she's like, some crazy woman came in here. And so then the woman brings up some kind of way, she brought up the fact about a position that's coming up with, I think, a housekeeping position or something like that. And Leah goes, yeah, that's the job I'm going to do. And Lucien looks at her like he could just, oh my gosh. And she was like, yep, I'm going to be the one to be the housekeeper. So two things. She gets to know where he lives and be in close proximity with him. But it's not going to be at the business, which clearly that's what he wanted. So he's pissed, but he's got these two people there, so he can't really say too much. So she kind of got him where she wants him. She goes home. Later that night, Rose has a date. She's meeting Jake's parents, so that's a big deal. She's just going to order pizza and watch Pretty Woman. Well, she gets a knock on the door, and it is Lucien. And they have like this little cute date night. And while they're in the middle of watching it, of course, they start kissing. And then it goes, hey, it's time now. So they go to the bedroom. He starts fingering her. He can tell like how, she's like super wet. He can also tell how extremely tight she is. And she can see how incredibly hung he is. And then, of course, it's like this explosive experience. Dude made her come like 3 times. And so she stayed on her back because she doesn't want him to see her scar. And so afterwards she did ask him, he asked her, how long has it been, since you were with somebody? And she's like, a year ago. And he's like, okay, and before that? And at first in her head, she's like, why is he, asking me about this? She's like, there was no one else. That was it. And so she had made the comment also, the last guy, he hurt her. And she was like, not physically, but he did hurt me. So then they fall asleep, and she had actually asked him to stay. So, because she had decided she was going to be bold. So they fell asleep. She wakes up to him on the floor. It seems like he's having a seizure, but he's having a bad dream. And it's like someone's trying to choke him. And he finally comes to. And of course, she's like, it's just a bad dream. And he looked really younger because he's like 29. But normally, like when in suits and things like that, he looks older, more mature. And she could kind of see his wall starting to shut down because it's like that weakness you're seeing. And it's like, I got to shut down. She could see it because she does it. So she's aware of what it looks like. So he's getting ready to leave. She just kind of made sure he couldn't see her back. And the next morning, she'll go over to his place and just get acquainted to where she's going to be working. So the next morning she wakes up, Rose is back, and of course she wants to hear about this new job. The only thing she tells her is that, it is the hot guy that she's working for, that, he offered her a job of being a housekeeper. And she doesn't tell her about the fact that they fucked or go into any more details. And so then she goes over to his place, and before you know it, he has got her on top of the countertop. He's eating her pussy. Girl went crazy because she had never had that before. He tells her, tell me what you want. And she didn't say anything. He says, no, you tell me what you want. And she's like, I want you to fuck me. So then, of course, he fucks her hard. So then they go take a shower, and he's lathering her up and everything. And she forgets about the scar on her back, and she turns around. He freaks, but it's not what she's thinking, because she's like, oh, shit. Because in her brain, she's like, she knows it's over, and that's where her mind goes. And I get that, because the last time that's how she got treated. But he's like, what the fuck happened to you? Like, who did this? And she tells him it was her stepfather. He took an iron to her back. And he's like, a fucking iron? Like, he was pissed. He's like, how could someone do that to you? Like, it was the complete opposite of Jackson's response. She doesn't go into all the details. But he did ask her, did he, take it from you, and she was like, no, it never got to that. And she leaves it at that. And so then after that, he takes off. No, he had to show the rest of the apartment. And then he takes off. So then she decides she's going to do some Googling. She feels like, shit, I'm fucking him. I'm working for him. Probably need to know a little bit more about him. So she starts her Googling. So then he goes to the office, and we find out he has a little demon too. Boy snorts coke. We find out Sam's nephew is the one that provides it. So the way it works, Sam gives the money to the nephew gives the product to Sam, and he always has his stash. He had apparently stopped using it for a little while, and I guess he needed it again after witnesses, what he saw this morning in the shower with her. So clearly he's got some demons if he's needing coke. So Leah goes back to her apartment. She gets served court papers. Apparently her mother is taking her stepfather to court. So she calls Deborah, because Deborah has someone that knows, I think the Jim got both of them, like through a person, through Martin, her boyfriend. They know someone. So she finds out that apparently Jim had beat up her mom real bad, and she apparently was taking him to court, and they want her to testify about the stuff that had happened, about the abuse that occurred to her. She's not looking forward to this. Girl wants to throw up. She's back at his place. She's making dinner. He walks in and sees her because she's a little, falling apart a little bit. And so finally she tells him what's going on, and he tells her, I'll have my lawyer look into it, see if we can get it to where you don't have to go. Maybe you can do like a video testimony or whatever. So then he's talking about going out for dinner, but she wanted to make dinner, so they make shrimp scampi together, or shrimp alfredo, I don't know, one of them. And it's really nice, cute little time. He goes, changes to comfortable clothes. It was super, cute little scene to read. And so they have dinner, and while they're eating, they have this question thing going on where they're asking each other a question back and forth. So he wants to know, he asks again about the last guy and, how long it lasted. She told him. She also told him about, like, his response to her scar. That pissed him off. He couldn't believe that someone would react that way. He, was like, that guy's so pathetic, and no one should ever make you feel like that. Letting her know that's fucked up, and, he was definitely on her side. She asked him about Monique. She's like, did you fuck her? He said, I did one time. And he says he regrets it. She asked about the scar because he has a scar that goes across his neck, like right below his neck. Dude shuts down. Then he's ready for her to go. And then he tells her he's going to be out of town for a couple days. So he totally shut down. So she leaves. She gets a call from Rose. They meet up at a coffee shop. Rose wanted to meet up because Jake apparently wants to try anal sex. Because apparently the guys on the team are telling him how great it is with their girlfriends. And he wants to try it. And she doesn't know if she really wants to do it. However, she is okay with the idea of being involved with the threesome with Leah, Lucien, and herself. And of course, Leah's like, so you don't want to do anal, but you're okay with the threesome? And Rose is like, listen, don't judge me in my freak level, you know? So then she admits about what's been going on with Lucien. And Rose is like, I knew something was going on because you've been acting different. So she tells her about the court thing as well. Rose is pissed off. After their conversation, she starts thinking about the Monique situation and how, what if he starts treating me like that? Like, she done fucked him. She gets how great he is in the bed. She sees why someone could be crazy about him. So now she's kind of figuring out, when is he going to throw me away? So a week goes by. She doesn't hear from him. She still goes to his place, cleans like she's supposed to. And then Friday night comes. Sam and Luke come in. Well, we'll call him Luke because now she's calling him Luke. So we'll call between Luke and Lucien. So he looks horrible. Dude's got the flu. So she spends the next couple of days taking care of him. He finally comes to that Sunday. He wants to fuck, but he knows he can't. But he told her, he was like, he thought it was saying in his head, but he said it out loud. He's like, just come put your pussy on my face. So she's like, yeah, you feel a little bit better if you're saying that. So she cooks him some food. And, he realizes, fuck, she's been taking care of me for the past 2 days. And what happens? He gorges on the food. He asks her about her childhood. And she told him the story. He's floored. He does tell her again, he has people looking into it to see if she will have to testify. So far, she still got to go. But he does tell her, I'll be there with you. And she, of course, was like, really? And he's like, yeah, you don't have to do this by yourself. I'll definitely be there with you. Couple days later, Leah's ass gets sick. So it's a whole flip-flop situation. And what happens is she's in class. She feels like crap. She gets to her apartment, unlocks the door. Girl leaves the keys in the door, passes out on her bed. She wakes up to somebody saying, baby, are you okay? And something cold on her face. And then she sees Rose, Jake, Sam, Luke, So then Luke picks her up. And he's like, I'm taking her home. And I'm like, oh, shit. So then he gets her back to his place, nurses her back to health for a couple days, and then he goes back to work, and he's only going to do a meeting, and then he's coming right back home because he's been working from home these last couple days. And Aiden's outside of the building, and Aiden's like, is Leah still sick? And he's like, yeah, I'm going back home. And he's like, I guess you just replaced Cassie with a newer model. And he's like, fuck you. So clearly, there was this love triangle with the three of them. Cassie can't be dead. And I guess whatever happened, he does say like he barely survived Cassie's love. So I am so looking forward to finding out that full story. So he gets back home, and before he had left, he had texted her and told her to be naked on the chaise lounge. And he came like 10 minutes early. And she was in the bathroom trying to get her hair right. So he rushes. So she rushes over to the shade. She's butt naked. He asked her, did she touch herself? He's like, I'm going to know if you did, because your pussy's not going to be swollen, But she hadn't done anything. And so then, of course, he He was taking off his clothes, and he took off his belt, and she thought he was going to hit her with it. And girl was like, Luke, please don't. He said, baby, I would never hurt you. He was using it to tie her hands up. So then he did that, and then he slammed into her, fucked her hard, and flipped her over, had a finger in her ass. At first she was like, she didn't know if she liked that, but the girl came super hard. They fell asleep on the couch, wake up to him having a nightmare. When he finally comes to, he sees that he knocked her off the couch and she had hit her head on the table. He, of course, feels horribly bad about this. It was so sad. He stayed on the couch. He did check her out, make sure she was okay, and he put her in the bed. But it's kind of like at this point, he was like pulling back because, he felt, I'm sorry, listen, if you do anything that hurts someone, even if it's unintentional, it will make you feel bad, especially if it's a physical pain you caused the person. You'll feel bad. And so, of course, he did. Because, again, what he had told her earlier, I will never hurt you. And then it's like he hurt her. So he felt super bad about that. 8 freaking days go by. She doesn't see him, but they do a little messaging back and forth. She goes over to clean his place. He's never there. Finally, she goes over one morning. He's there. He just kind of comes up to her, hugs her, just tells her, how much he misses her. And he's sorry he freaked out. He tells her, there's some sleeping medicine he can take, so stuff like that won't happen. And I'm just kind of like, but it took you 8 days to process that. Even though I do understand people have their own time frame that they have to process things. I get that. But you knew you had sleeping pills for this before. So I'm just saying. So he wants to do a hooky day. He's gonna take her to the house in Biltmore, and so he takes her there. And his aunt's there. She's a nurse, and she kind of stares at her for a split second at Leah, and I'm thinking, I wonder if the childhood friend Cassie kind of favors Leah a little bit, So they have some coffee. Her and the aunt talk for a little bit. The aunt shows her a picture on the mantle of Aiden, Luke, and Cassie. And when she points to Cassie, she says, yeah, that's my little dark one. So they talk for a couple minutes. She leaves. She goes to work. They go have a skinny dip in the pool. They have a nice hot fuck session. And honestly, I really love this book. You'll hear me say that probably more than once. It was a really good read. Like, to read it, it was just the intensity that you could just, it's amazing. Sydney, you got away with words. I appreciate you. She asked him about Cassie, but he kind of shuts down. The only thing he says is, that Cassie doesn't live here anymore, but that's kind of it. He doesn't go into any more detail. So we get to the day of her court date. Girl's panicking. She goes in the courtroom, sees her mother. Her mother looks smaller, looks a little sickly. And she does say, pretty much to her, like, how are you? What's going on with you? And her mother looks at her like, you took off all those years ago and you haven't cared 1 ounce about me. And now you want to criticize how I look. And so Leah goes off on her. And she's like, we both know I didn't leave. You kicked me out, And she went in on that mother. And that was awesome. And I was glad for her. She needed to do that. Stepfather comes in. He's in chains because he's been in jail this whole time because he ain't got no money for bail. So then they have Leah go on the stand first. She tells the parts of the story that she had never told to Luke. And he is visibly upset. Not because he's mad at her, but he's upset about the things that he's fucking hearing, of what she had to endure. And he is about to just fucking lose it. And so the lawyer, Max, who is his friend as well, is just like trying to calm him down. Like, pretty much you got to chill out. They're going to kick your ass. Like, you got to chill. So then they have a recess. They come back and her mother gets on the stand and the bitch debunks everything that Leah said. This bitch even lies about her attack and says that she fell, that she had got mad at her husband because he was talking to the younger neighbor and it was just a misunderstanding. He would never hurt her, saying that he was a great stepfather and that Leah was just a problem child and just was so disrespectful. It was deplorable. Of course, Leah lost it. She lost it. Even the woman's lawyer lost it, because the mother's lawyer was there because she was supposed to be trying to press these charges, and she just changed her whole story. So the lawyer's freaking out. He's like, you do realize, the charges you could be facing. And she just kept on with her, I don't know what you're talking about. It was so horrible. So they get her out of there, and Max knows about his past and stuff like that, and Max is shocked that he's like damn near living with a whole woman again. So they get back to his place. She takes a long shower. She's just trying to wash the day off for her, but she decides, you know what, I know sex doesn't fix everything, but bitch, I need to fuck this out of me. So she she use anything to tie up her hair. She'll use braid ties. She'll use anything. So she does that and ties some stuff around her nipples and stuff like that. And she's naked on the chaise lounge. He comes from work, and because he had to go in for a little bit, and he comes over. He starts eating her pussy. Starts fucking her against the glass window. He's saying all this nasty stuff to her, like you like the idea of being fucked while someone watches. And she didn't realize that this stuff makes her even wetter for him to talk this way. She absolutely loves it. So they go to dinner with Rose and Jake. Monique and Aiden show up, and he has to shut her down again. And then on the way home, she asked about if there was anyone after Monique. He tells her about Lori and that situation, and it kind of course, made her go, okay. As always, making her kind of think about their situation and what it was. But he lets her know, he never went to Lori's. Hold on, let me say it right. He never stayed the night at Lori's place. He never let Lori even come to his place. You know what I mean? It really was just kind of like a convenience type of a thing. There was involved, So then, of course, they have a hard fuck that night. Luke wakes up in a panic because he had a nightmare. He goes in the bathroom, does a line of coke, hears Leah at the door, and he's like, I hit my foot on something. Because she's like, I thought I heard a scream. I said, damn. So then they go back to sleep, wake up, have another hard fuck session, and he tells her, that Sam's going to pick her up from St. Clair, drop her off, pick her up. And she, of course, tries to be like, is it really necessary? And he's like, until we find out what's going on with your stepfather, it is necessary. Because apparently on Monday, he's supposed to be getting out. So Sam comes to pick her up. And while they're driving, she tries to ask Sam some questions about Cassie. And Sam just says, it was a lot of misunderstandings and confusion, but that's something that Luke needs to tell you. And she felt bad about asking Sam this. And I was like, you should feel bad, because that man will tell you when he's ready. You're trying to, just because you felt comfortable telling your shit a little sooner, doesn't mean he has to be at that same pace. So just give him some grace. It's been like a fucking month, Give him some grace. Give him some time. And don't be trying to squeeze information out of other people, you just need to hold off. He'll let you know when he's able to let you know. And Sam told her, be patient. Give him time. He'll open up to you when the time is right. So then Aiden goes and visits Cassie because she's apparently in some type of mental facility. And we find out that during this visit, she called him Spence, which is a shorter version of his last name, Spencer. And that's what she always used to call him. And so for the past 8 years, she's just pretty much looked through him. She hasn't been present at all. She had a mental break. And so Aiden is still in love with her. And so he's happy about this because he's like, oh my God, she's coming back around. Luke is pissed because he hates the woman. And apparently we get what kind of happened. She tried to take out herself, him, Luke and their baby, because she was pregnant, and I think she was pregnant. I don't think she had the baby. I don't think they said. So we'll get more details about that. Well, she succeeded in taking out the baby, and it was a boy. So we don't know any of the other stuff. We just know that little piece of what happened, which is a lot. So then Max's lawyer comes in, tells him, the stepfather got out a couple hours ago. They were supposed to give us a heads up. They haven't. Somewhere the ball got dropped. So then he tells him about Cassie, and Max knows all the past shit, and he's like, okay, do you want me to handle it? And he, figure out what's going on, and he's like, no, just give it some time. But Max does tell him that he has found out who Leah's biological father is. And so it turns out that it's a guy named Lee, I think Lee Jackson, or Lee Jack, I think Lee Jackson. He's a really big deal in the real estate. He's a real estate developer, and he's also got his hands in the underworld as well. So this is a big deal. And he kind of lets him know, I know he's going to know I've been poking around. He's going to find out who my employer is. He's going to come knocking on your door. So you kind of want to figure out what you want to tell him. So then Leah goes to class. She has some time in between, goes to get a frappe, spills it on herself. And at first she was just going to, wait around for Sam. But then she's like, you know what? My apartment's only a block away. I'll be back in time for Sam. Goes to her apartment, picks up her mail. Boom. She gets grabbed from behind. Something that tastes like gas gets put in her mouth. And yes, it is her stepfather, Jim Dawson. So then 3 o'clock rolls around. Well, it was after 3 o'clock. And Luke texts Sam and is like, have you picked her up yet? Sam's like, I'm waiting for her. He's like, it's after 3. And so he's like, so he starts calling her phone. She's not getting an answer. He's calling Rose. Rose hasn't seen her, but she does see a missed call from her. We're in the courtyard. It's a whole freaking mess. So now Luke's terrified. He gets in his vehicle. He gets over to her apartment, and Rose is already there. Rose is like, she hasn't been in that apartment yet. A woman that lives in the dormitory comes up named Ashley, and she's like, they found her down in the, I guess the tenant's locker or whatever it is. She's down there. They go down there. Old man's there. I guess he's over the building. And he's like, we just found her like this. She needs some help because she wasn't conscious. And Luke is just like, oh my gosh, my beautiful broken girl. And that is how Pierced ends. Oh my gosh. So the next book in the series is called Fractured, and we are gonna dive into that one next week. Tell me what you guys thought of this. I liked it. I really love the writing of Sydney Landon. I really do. Even though I'm reviewing this and telling you the book, I promise you it's still a really great read, because it's really nice the way the intensity that she puts into these words. Like it's these scenes, you can see them. It's beautiful. I love it. Let me know what you guys think. Drop down in the comments section and let me know. If you are in the market for a beautiful notebook or journal, I do have a link for those, and that link will be provided in the description section as well. Make sure you like and subscribe. As always, I truly do thank you all for your support, and thank you for tuning in to the Always Reading Book Club.